win or go home for Henry.
It is, and he's gone for this double fianchetto. It kind of started with knight f3, b3. I mean, the plan is just simply, especially when he puts the queen on e1, is to go for e2, e4, and then you just start to advance queen e2. The rook will come to d1. The rook will come to d1, and then there will be pressure against the center at some point. White always has in the back of the pocket ideas such as e5, but you've got to be very careful because once you go e5, the bishop on h7 is no longer shut out of the game.
Yeah, it's almost like a London bishop, isn't it? Except in reverse, okay? I know this because often I play the King's Indian versus a London. As you pointed out, this bishop gains so much life when white pushes. So instead, white goes for a different setup, putting the knight on e5 and expanding. And now white might be trying for this move pawn to f5, which weakens the black king's side. It advances the rook, but knight back, getting rid of one of white's best placed pieces. And now I already want to take on f7 and play f5. It's probably not sound, but again, it is win or go home. It's a little bit too early there to go crazy. You could just play queen h5 or something if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can go queen h5. You could also maybe introduce new pieces into the attack. I'm thinking the rook on a1 perhaps could get into the game with rook d1 or rook e1, just anticipating that the tension in the center might get resolved with pawn takes e4. But instead, we're seeing Sina. He's going on the offensive with b5, saying, let's make this a pure race. You work in the center and the king side. I'm going to work the magic on the queen side.
Queen g4 is like a juicy move. In fact, I don't know if white is happy with the position objectively, but in a win or go home situation, white is getting what he wants. There is play on both sides of the board. I mean, if you said it was win or go home and you showed me this bishop, I would say, cool, I can win with that bishop, right? Queen to g4, he's not expecting the checkmate to work, but he's expecting black to make a weakness. Bishop f8 is the computer's recommendation. That, of course, prevents any pawn structure weaknesses. I assume we're going to see this move. I don't really see any other move that black would consider. Maybe d4 is a very small consideration to block out the bishop. In fact, it was played, but that pawn looks a little bit weak after knight f3. That's why I had discounted this move. And computer says knight f3. How do you guard the pawn? Bishop f6 is answered by pawn to e5.
Yeah, how do you guard the pawn? I don't see a natural continuation. Maybe you just ignore it and go a4. Just put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and just rely on the power of the a pawn. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, maybe you have to go on the counteroffensive and go for f5, but that really might be just setting fire to the position unnecessarily. And the stress is there, Mike, because as you mentioned, I can't see a way to defend d4 at all.
Actually, before this game got going, I took a quick peek at Sina's camera, and he looked like he was sighing and trying to calm himself down. I'm sure that disconnection gave him a lot of stress, but this was a pretty easy thing to see that after d4, that pawn was going to go down. So I'm surprised that Sina didn't already have a response ready. He does go for a4. He's got to create some sort of counterplay. Yeah, I think that the disconnection happened at a very inopportune time. I'm so glad he came back, but he might still be feeling the adrenaline. I mean, I know it, right? Ryobi, you're a commentator. I'm a commentator. When I have a tech problem and I'm doing a live show, I know what goes on inside my body. And Sina might have been experiencing the same thing. The computer didn't like winning the pawn back right away, but sure seems natural to me to have done so. Okay, black's going to try to throw this pawn down the board. Bishop f8, because any knight move would have been a discovered attack on g7. So safety first, guard g7 even before you need to. And objectively equal, but again, I think white is getting the kind of position that you want to get when you are in a must-win situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sina's doing incredibly well to hold his nerve because I can tell you when I've had those technical glitches, I have been massively stressed. And here, he has had a problem in that he's dropped the pawn on d4. That probably wasn't part of the equation, but he does have counterplay based on this runaway a pawn. And yeah, this is something that we mentioned earlier on. You've got to always be careful about going e5 as white because it unleashes this bishop on h7. And sure enough, the bishop is attacking the rook on a8. But actually, I'm not sure whether you even want to give up your bishop for a rook like that. And that's where we're seeing that there is going to be a sacrifice. In fact, it's happened. And watch out for this bishop on h7. It's soon to become a monster.
Yeah, white made a very committal decision. When you play e5, you hurt this bishop, but you help the other one, a true Sophie's choice. But it turns out the bishop sacrifice, or sorry, the exchange sacrifice for the bishop was completely justified because of all of these weaknesses. Look at the black pawn pieces rush to life. Black no longer has to worry about any attack at all ever against his own king. What a brilliant decision here. Petrosian-esque exchange sacrifice. The black pieces are all coming to life. Still, though, it is a material imbalance, so there's white is getting at least a puncher's chance in this position, but things are looking very good for black.
Yes, and I was actually wondering whether d5 might be in the air for white just to kind of cling on and gain some control of the light squares, but instead we're seeing already that Henry is actually fighting hard because now black is only move, bishop takes bishop.
Yep, that's it. Black didn't really want to get rid of the bishop pair. They operate well in combination with each other. Instead, the queen moves over. Okay, it's not over yet, but only 8 seconds left. If they have a winner by Henry, by white, they will play a 2-game 3+1 tiebreak, but we're a long way away from that. White is getting some chances here by getting a passed d-pawn that if it gets captured, the rooks come to life. And now all 3 results are possible, but only one really matters for our event today.
Yes, it is only if Henry manages to win that we're going to be seeing tie breaks. All other results, that means Sina is the one going through. And what is happening here as the queens are going to come off? And the question is the B pawn. Can you just go bishop c2 and then go b3, b2? Well, we're going to be seeing something like that. This bishop parks itself on the golden square. b3 incoming.
Yep, the rook goes behind the pawn exactly where you want to be, whether you're the person with the passed pawn or fighting against the passed pawn. Now we've reached a moment of stasis where the pawn wasn't going to be able to advance. So now white takes his chances in rook and 4 versus rook and 3. Remember, Magnus once won rook and 4 versus rook and 4. So a little bit of an easier task. The problem is, even if you trade down, you're going to have rook and 1 versus rook, and the black king is going to be in front of whatever passed pawn you've got remaining. So it's an objective draw, but white is going to play 150 moves trying to win this one.
And will this be the first draw of Group A? What's happening? Oh,
huge mistake, because he gave up control of the 7th rank, and now white is going to get a passed h pawn. That's going to be the decider. Can white convert, though? We might have some bonus chess. Don't go anywhere at all, kiddos.
Yeah, and what a turnaround. The black fortress was working so well, and now the black king is completely cut off. Okay, it's going to be driven off one more stage. Could you go rook to g8 as opposed to rook a8? Yeah, he gets here, and now the king will step forward, and then the g-pawn is going to be advancing. And you can cut the king off one more. It's...
he actually misplays it because he loses the pawn. Unbelievable. And actually loses on time. We went from a drawn rook endgame to a win, back to a draw, and ultimately the theme of the day prevails as black wins. Henry lost on time, but it ultimately didn't matter because it was an easily drawn position once his pawn falls. Heartbreak for Romania. Sina throws his head back and knows he has survived an unbelievable game, an unbelievable effort from Henry, trying to win and make a tiebreak happen. Black finishes with 20 out of 30.